All right, so Hunyuan and Ernie are the two biggest Chinese AI models right now, and I ran them through 4 real tests to see which one actually holds up. Hunyuan's 3D model alone hit 3 million Hugging Face downloads, and that's a real number, not marketing copy. Both models just got major updates, and developers are picking sides right now, so the timing matters, and I went through 19 verified sources, official docs, academic preprints, and independent press, comparing Hunyuan versus Ernie across 4 real tests with no vendor spin, just what the evidence actually says. Honestly, the model I thought would dominate Chinese language tasks doesn't come out on top the way you'd expect, and one of these two has a real workaround for content restrictions that the other simply can't offer. So that gap could break your whole workflow. So this comparison is for developers and researchers deciding which Chinese AI to actually build with. Because pick wrong and you're either hitting content blocks mid-task, stuck behind a registration wall with no workaround, or shipping a multimodal feature on top of vendor claims that nobody has independently verified. And that's a real cost, not a hypothetical. 1. Test 1, Chinese language comprehension and nuance, and get this wrong and your model produces textbook stiff outputs on Chinese queries, misses dialect context, or fails on a classical poetry prompt in a way that makes your whole product look broken, which for a bilingual app is a trust-destroying user experience that's really hard to walk back. What surprised me here is how hard it is to call. Hunyuan's MT7 billion hits the 90th percentile on translation quality versus Gemini Pro across 33 languages, including 5 Chinese dialects, and I found a blog reported MMLU Chinese score above 80, while Ernie gets a 5 out of 5 on Chinese understanding from a separate source, grounded through Baidu's search index, but these are completely different test setups, not a controlled head-to-head. Honestly, the gap is smaller than the marketing on either side suggests. Hunyuan wins on dialect breadth and image-to-Chinese semantic accuracy. Ernie wins on factual grounding for Baidu's knowledge graph. But a controlled text LLM comparison just doesn't exist in the evidence right now. So calling a clean winner would be faking certainty I don't have. I was expecting one model to pull clearly ahead on Chinese, and what actually happened is they're genuinely different in ways that don't stack up against each other. So test 1 is a tie, Hunyuan on dialects and semantic accuracy, Ernie on factual grounding, which puts the running score at Hunyuan 0, Ernie 0, 1 tied. Test 2, multimodal image and video generation quality. And if you pick the wrong model here, you're either shipping a 3D pipeline on top of a vendor claim with 0 independent validation, or you're locked out of open source access entirely and can't self-host, which means you're paying for a black box and hoping the quality holds up in production. I looked at this pretty carefully, and the evidence is really lopsided. Hunyuan video at 13 billion plus parameters is independently human evaluated as matching leading closed source video models. Hunyuan 3D 2.5 crossed 3 million Hugging Face downloads with a fully open PBR pipeline, and Ernie 5.0's unified 2.4 trillion parameter multimodal claim comes with vendor documentation only, no third-party validation anywhere I could find. Now, to be fair, Ernie 5.0's unified architecture is a genuinely interesting idea. One autoregressive model handling text, image, video, and audio together is a different design philosophy than Hunyuan's specialist model approach. But I can't score a vendor claim against independently assessed models. So if Ernie 5.0 gets third-party benchmarks, this test could look different. I was expecting Ernie's massive parameter count to at least make this close, but Hunyuan takes test 2 and it's not really close right now because open source independently evaluated video and 3D generation versus unverified vendor claims is a pretty wide gap. So the running score is Hunyuan 1, Ernie 0, 1 still tied. Test 3, API accessibility and integration ease. And you pick a model, you try to hook it up, and then you find out you need a mainland China phone number to register, or you hit a documentation gap between the global portal and the domestic one, which isn't minor friction. That's your sprint blocked for days while you figure out a workaround. Both APIs have the same fundamental international access problem, but Hunyuan has documented SDKs in Python, Go, Java, Node.js, and PHP, which is solid, while Ernie 4.5 is available on Novita AI with verified pricing from $0.056 per million input tokens, giving international developers a real path in that Hunyuan doesn't currently match, even though the registration friction is pretty much identical on both sides. Hunyuan wins on SDK language breadth, Ernie wins on third-party hosting through Novita, and Ernie also handles 500 million queries a day, according to a blog report. But Hunyuan hasn't published an equivalent figure, so I can't actually compare production scale. And depending on your stack and where you're based, either one could be the easier integration. I was expecting one of these to clearly win on developer experience, and what I got instead is 2 models that split the advantages pretty evenly, Hunyuan on SDK coverage and Ernie on third-party access. So test 3 is a tie, and the running score stays at Hunyuan 1, Ernie 0, 2 tied. Test 4, content censorship and topic restriction scope, and your mid-task on a research prompt or a creative writing job, and the model just stops, refuses, no warning, no explanation, which isn't a theoretical risk because users have reported Ernie dropping out mid-task on creative prompts while Hunyuan finished the same job, even if it scrubbed out the interesting parts. Ernie's blocks are specific and press verified. Tiananmen Square, Chinese political leader names, revolution. And keyword combinations like democracy, Middle East, and British government are all documented, while Hunyuan's official platform follows standard Chinese compliance too, but the open source deployment path shows community-reported minimal filtering when you run it locally. And that's a real practical difference. To be fair, the open source filter flexibility is a community-reported finding from third-party deployments, not an official Tencent feature. And Ernie had full Chinese government approval before its September 2023 launch, which is actually an advantage for enterprise deployments inside China that need documented compliance. So this one really depends on whether you need regulatory cover or operational flexibility. I was expecting both models to be basically equivalent here since they both operate under Chinese regulations, and what actually separates them is the open source workaround. So Hunyuan takes test 4 because local deployment gives researchers a practical path that Ernie's closed model can't offer. And the running score is Hunyuan 2, Ernie 0, 2 tied. Hunyuan wins on open source video and 3D generation. Hunyuan Video and Hunyuan 3D 2.5 are independently evaluated, openly licensed, and have over 3 million Hugging Face downloads. And it also wins on multimodal specialist depth, 5 Chinese dialect support across 33 languages, and documented SDK coverage in Python, Go, Java, Node.js, and PHP, which are all concrete checkable advantages. Ernie wins on knowledge graph grounding because Baidu search index integration gives it a structural advantage for factual Chinese language queries that Hunyuan's architecture just doesn't replicate. And it also wins on third-party API access through Novita AI with verified pricing, 500 million daily queries of production infrastructure, and full Chinese government regulatory clearance before launch. Honestly, I was expecting the Chinese language comprehension test to be the deciding factor, but it ended up a tie, and multimodal generation is where this actually splits. So here's the decision rule. If you need video, 3D, or image generation with open source access and independently verified quality, go Hunyuan. And if you need deep factual Chinese language grounding, Novita API access, or documented CN regulatory clearance for an enterprise deployment inside China, go Ernie.